Hello, my squishies! I'm here. If anybody can hear me, please say hello in the comments. There is a slight latency, so I should be able to see your comment about 10-15 seconds after you have typed it. But welcome to this month, Felt Along with the Caledonian Wool Company. I'm the Caledonian Wool Company. Just waiting on someone saying that they can hear me, and then we will start. I can see Rona already, but hopefully someone else. And Morgan, that means that you can hear me. Hopefully. Give me the thumbs up if you can hear me. That awkward pause when I never know what to say. I should really say the name of the landscape, but trying to pronounce it is remarkably difficult if you're me. Excellent. So I can be heard. So I will start. So hopefully you guys have all got your kits in front of you. If you haven't done this before, I'm going to give a nice quick introduction to what you should have in your kit and needle felting, and then we're going to get along with making this wonderful landscape that's in the top left hand corner of your screen. So to start with in your kit, you'll have a foam mat. Thank you, Rona. You'll have a foam mat, always felt onto this foam mat. Don't do it on a table, or in my case sometimes your knee. Very bad idea. Hi Tanya. Also in your kit you will have a little set like this. So inside here you've got your felting needles and a needle holder. So the felting needles, you should have 5 of them. So they'll have a really sharp end and an end with a hook on it. The sharp end is really sharp. Please try to avoid stabbing yourself. When you're needle felting, keep your hand as far away from where you're stabbing as you can, but stabs do happen, so don't worry about it. Needle grip is optional, so this just makes it easier to hold the needle. Now to use one of these, you've got a little plug in one end, so you pull out that plug, grab your needle and lay it along the little groove that's on one side of the plug. Hi Jennifer. And the end with the little hook on it, you want to make sure that that is on the skinny end. So the hook is going over the skinny end and you pop it in and then you can work away. I'll show you that again, just in cases. So you've got a little plug in it, you just pull that out, put the needle in the groove with the hook on the skinny end, and you put the skinny end back into the grip, and there you've got it. I tend not to use this, but it does really help. So when I'm felting, I take 1, sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 needles and hold them in my hand at the same time. You can get grips that do this, but I like just holding them. Also in your kit, you've got a little bit of felt. So this is Shetland pre-felt. So it's fabric, it's wool that's been felted a little bit, but still can be worked on. And it'll have a design drawn on it. So we're going to fill in and count by numbers, fill in the gaps here. In your kit, you've also got a frame. This is what we're going to use to mount it on the wall and make it look pretty. And the most important part, we've got all the lovely Shetland wool. So this is all pure Shetland wool. It's beautiful. It's been dyed various colours. And when you're working with this, there's a couple of tricks. So when you're needle felting flat like this, you really don't need much. So we're only going to pull out little bits at a time. And when you're trying to pull out little bits from a big bit of top, this is called tops like this, you want to grab one end and just pull gently. Now, if you have your hands too close together when you're doing this, it's not going to pull apart because you're fighting against the length of the individual hairs. So it's not going to pull if you have your hands too close together. And if there's any twist in it, it's also not going to pull apart. Because twist is what holds the wool together when you're making yarn and things like that. So if this is twisted, you can't pull it. So always make sure it's flat. Have your hands nice and far apart and gently pull little bits. And you can see how little you can get. So that's the mat, the pre-felt, the tops of the fibre. We've got our needles. And one last thing. So needles are very sharp and they do break sometimes. To limit breakage, it's very important to always stab straight. So straight in or straight at an angle. If you're putting in and bending it, that's when you're more likely to break a needle. Always count your needles in and out at the end of each session so that you know you've not lost any, and dispose of any broken ones carefully. So, chat along in the comments. Tell me if I'm going too fast, going too slow, if you need any help, but I think it's time to start getting felted, don't you? Okay, so this picture, now this is a screen overlay in the top left hand corner, which is quite fun, so I'm not going to poke at it too much. We're going to start from the top and work our way down so that things are layering up on top. So you don't have to go entirely inside the lines because you will be putting stuff over the top of it. So don't worry, this isn't colouring in, you don't have to stick within the lines. So to start off with, I'm going to take some of this beautiful sky blue and lay it down horizontally, and you don't need too much, just roughly where this sky is. And at this stage as well, I'm not going to be felting it in too much. So with needle felting, you want to felt it in quite well. Well, you can. I like to felt it in quite well, so it's good and stuck in there. But at the beginning, I like to just, like I'm painting an undercoat, I'll just get all the colour in, move quite fast getting all the colour in, and then go back in afterwards once all the colours are in the right places and tweak it. And as some of you know, it does look like a mess for the first wee while, and then suddenly it all magically comes together. So if yours is starting to look like a mess, don't worry, I reckon in 5-10 minutes after the mess happens, it will look perfect. I'm just going to very gently felt it in, and you also don't want to stay in the lines on the outside, because when we're going to put it in the frame, you want to make sure it goes nicely over the edge. So let's get felting. So I saw some of you guys posted in the Facebook group, or most of you guys posted in the Facebook group, your amazing sunsets from last month. They are all wonderful. I am so proud. And you guys are getting better every single week. There we go. So I've got a little layer of blue in there. I don't want to spend too much time on this blue because I want to get the rest of the colour in. I want to get the exciting bit. But before I put any more colour in, I'm going to, so for you, those of you who haven't felted before, what you're doing is you're stabbing the hairs that you've just laid down through the fibre, the fabric backing, which is knotting them together. That also means that they're going to go into the mat that's underneath. So every so often you want to pull your work off of the mat to make sure it doesn't get too stuck in. Like you can see all the other colours I've been felting that are stuck in there. And the nice thing about the pre-felt as well, it's quite malleable at this stage, so you can shift it about and move it and change position. So don't worry if it suddenly goes wonky. So we've got our sky, We're now going to work on the hills behind it, again going from back to front essentially. So I'm going to lay down a base of the greens. So you should have a couple of different greens. So I'm going for a nice mossy one to start, and then I'll start building up brighter greens on top of that. So I'm starting from this side, and I'm going to put some browns in quite early here as well, because this is one of the background hills. And again, I can go over, preferably at this point, going over the edge, so that when I put the other hill on top in front, it really stands out. So last month when I was coming to you guys, I was midway through redecorating and opening up my new shop, and it is now pretty much all finished. I have had customers in. There is no longer my dad in the background sawing things, which is, I mean, it was wonderful. I love him, thank you. But it's nice to have peace and quiet. And it looks, I like to think it looks amazing. And I'm so excited when you guys can all come in and visit again. So I've now taken a slightly more greeny green, and I'm just putting a thin layer, so super thin. Excuse the cuts on my hand. So you can see how little it is I'm just putting on top. And we are going to build up multiple layers of colour, thin layers, so don't worry. I've got a little bit of that thin green on the go, and that's just gone over that back hill entirely. Now I'm going to go in and be brave early on with the brown. So this lovely chocolate brown colour. Again, super thin amount. Laying it on top. I'm going to aim for this chocolate brown slightly lower and try and avoid that top little bit, because that's where the sunlight would hit the top of the hill in the background. So I want to give it that depth so that the sun hits it at the top and we've got a darker bit at the bottom. That's that in. And again, I'm just doing this super quick to begin with and get those colours in. Then we're going to go back in, fiddle about with it, change anything that you don't like, and just get it nice and felted. Talking of changing bits you don't like, for those of you who have not done this before with me, the wonderful thing about needle felting is if you don't like what you've just put down, you can literally, at this stage especially, just pull it off and start again. There is no wrong that you can do just now. So I'm now going to take the darkest brown, and again, such tiny amounts, possibly even less than this. And I'm going to aim this little section at where that front hill is going to cross over the back hill. So in this left hand side, I'm going to pop that in there. Again, it's tempting to miss the top bit, but that's going to give the shadow when we put the next hill on top. Now remember, if it's too dark, you can take it off. If it's too light, you can add more on later, or you can also leave it dark and add more on top. That'll give it a really nice depth. So just checking in with everybody. Are we all doing okay? I'm not going too fast for anyone. I take your silence as a yes. Okay, So I'm now going to go and do the main hill of this landscape, which is, now you're going to ask me to pronounce it, aren't you? Is Meall and Salam, I think. I'm terrible with names, but it's the hill that I look out at from Fort William. So it's a hill that is just opposite, on the other side of Loch Linney, in Fort William, and it's only about 400 metres. It's not very high, but it is my favourite. Well, it's my favourite view. Perfect, Tanya. So I've now taken the lightest of the greens again, because I'm using this as the base, and I'm going to pre-shape it before I lay it down. So the really nice thing about working with felt is, depending on how you lay it down, you get different effects, and I want this to kind of go there and then smoosh down. So before I put it on, I'm going to pinch it and pull it. Makes the shape of the hill that I'm putting on top. So that's going to go there, and you can see when you lay it down how that shadow really pops behind it. So I'm just going to felt this down, and then we're going to put some more colours on top. So once I've finished, when I finish tonight and I spend the next week or so editing down this 1 hour felt along to a nice sort of 7 to 10 minute bite-sized version of it, it's hilarious every time I have to edit out when I've got no hands on the screen and I'm talking, or various other things that I just don't even notice I do. And if you haven't watched those little 5-minute ones, I'm quite proud of them. I think my voiceover is I've heard it sends people to sleep, which I think is a good thing. Now this hill going down for me just now is a little bit sharp, so I'm going to just pull it up so it's a little bit smoother. But your hill can be any size or shape you want, and I think I need to go a little bit higher. I might even pull the water level up a little bit. And that's the joy of felting, is I can just squish it about. So I'm going to make that just a touch higher. And I'm just going to, so you can either pull up the blue and add it on top. There we go. Or just chuck it completely on top. Am I still, yep. There we go. So I've got that nice green. I'm going to go and start doing a little bit more colour in this, and then we're going to get on to the meat of this, the lovely loch. Now you'll notice in the loch there is 3 little orange dots. So again, I'm going for mid-green there. So these little dots can either, depending on your preference, be buoys from boats that are just floating in the loch, because the loch is full of buoys, or, as I think they are swimmers with their little, again, they're called buoys, I think, with their little buoys behind them, because I regularly swim in this loch. And this one, this month, is in honour of my friend Jo, who I go swimming with. Because it is her birthday, so I'm doing a picture of us swimming. So I've got the green, and then I'm going to go for some brown on top. So the nice chocolate brown. Again, I'm leaving the top there without any extra colour on it for the moment. I will be putting some yellow highlights in, but not quite yet. So again, the brown is missing a gap at the top and going on the rest. And again, you see how little I'm putting on, because you can always build up colour and put it on later. And yeah, I think little layers are the way to go. And don't worry just now, because this to me looks like an absolute mess, but it will. I promise you, it will all come together, so nobody panic. Okay, so I've got my greens and my browns. I'm now going to pop in, before we go any further, the brightest of the bright greens. Dun, dun, dun. And just along the very base, we're going to do a line of this bright green. Because at the moment, looking out across the loch, because it's still, I want to say it's almost summer, but it's not, because it was snowing today. It's the end of spring, so the lower ground is starting to go green, but the upper hills haven't quite got, I'm going to put even less on than that, the upper hills haven't quite got the green on them yet. So I'm popping in just a little line of green right at the bottom. And we will fade this in, do not panic, because we're going to put some more colours on top. And we're also going to put what is my favourite, one of my favourite plants, little specks of gorse, because that is starting to come out just now. You can see that. So here, these bottom bits, if you want to, you don't have to put it down in the line. You can scrumple it up and put it down slightly scrumpled. That is definitely the technical term. And that just makes it look like little plants and bushes. Because it's not quite perfect, it's not even. That's the look we're going for. I'm going to put just a tiny bit more just down at the bottom. And then I'm going to start with this water. So hopefully you've got something of a mountain. Don't worry if it's not a perfect mountain just now. Although, is it a mountain if it's only 400 metres? Hillock? We will come back to it, but I think it helps a lot if we get the full colour before we start playing with all the fun bits. So we're going to go for the water. Now the water, so we're seeing both sides of the loch. So what we're aiming for is that it goes light to dark in the centre to light again, so that it gives that feeling of depth in the centre of the channel. Because even though it isn't a very wide channel, I think it's one of the deepest lochs in the UK. That's why they have lots of divers here. I could be lying. Somebody might fact check me in the comments. So I'm going to start in the centre with the darkest of the blues, and then we're going to build up either way, so that gives it the nice depth. I've heard that this centre bit is the coldest bit, so I stay very close to the shore when I'm swimming. Again, just layering up the little bits of blue to make a Loch Linny. I will go right to the edge with this dark blue, but only slightly thinner, just to give it a little bit of depth when we do put the lighter colour on. So I'm fading, gradiating, words, down to the edge. Oh, and don't remember. Yep, don't remember. Don't forget pull it off every so often, because you will notice that it starts to sink into the mat and it can distort the shapes. There we go. And then we're going for this little bit here. So there is this beautiful bluey, greeny, tealy, don't know quite how to describe this colour, that we're going to go to the edge with. So I'm going to take a little section and then pulling it out. And we will work over both edges of this to fade them into each other. So don't worry if they look quite blocky just now. That's just the start. We are underpainting. Yeah, underpainting. That's totally the right word. Underpainting the felt just now. And again, don't worry if you go over your edges. And your shapes don't have to match up with my shapes. They can be any shape of hill you like, any water you like. There we go. So that is starting to look. So I'm going to take again this. Oh, I've lost it. No, I haven't. It is a beautiful colour, isn't it? I am slightly in love with this colour. I just spun 50 grams for a friend in this colour with oranges and another dark blue, and oh, it's beautiful. So I'm going to take, right, so I've taken off a little bit. I'm going to open it up. You can see how I'm opening it, but it just kind of stretches the fabric, like opening up one of those, like opening up a washing line thing, so that we just get little tiny wisps on top. And that creates what I think look like tiny waves. And I'm going to go over it again, making it darker, but just now I want to keep layering the colours. I say this a lot, layering and layering and layering. It is, in my mind, incredibly important. Okay, so we've now got to do, I'm going to do the green at the bottom before I put in the whites, I think. I'm going to pop in the green in the foreshore, those words. So it's the darkest green because it's closest to us and it is right at the ground. And I'm not going to lay it down nice and flat like I have been doing. I'm going to scrumple it up because I am a rebel. Because I want to see more texture in this front bit. I want to see, like, because it'll create natural shadows and extra depth. So scrumfling is very important. And then once we've got this colour in, and I'm going to put the white in, we're going to stand back and look at it in the frame. Decide what needs to go where and how it's looking. So I'm going to pop in the white of the beaches. So again, it's the white, you only need the tiniest amount. And I'm pulling it gently apart so that it goes the length of the work. And then gently felting it in. Doesn't that just make that hill pop in the background? Still don't like the shape of this. I'll come back to that later. But I think with all the colours in now, we are going to go back and add in a lot more depth to this green. don't worry about that. Okay. I think all the colours are there. We've still got a lot of work to do, so don't panic if you're not where I am. But I'm going to have a look at this in the frame. So at this stage, because it's still quite fluffy, you can really smooth it down just by rubbing it. And so when you're trying it on in the frame, it's always a good idea to move the mat out of the way and do it on a hard surface. So with the frame, you unscrew it so it's at its biggest open. You've got your front bit and the back bit. I'm gonna lay the picture down. So I'm feeling the frame underneath and feeling that it's in the right place. And then simply popping it on. Push it in, and then that's when you've finished it properly, you would tighten it up, and that essentially would be your finished piece once you've cut off the back. But just now we're just looking at layout and shape. So have a look at it, stand up, hold it upside down, take a photograph of it, have a look and see, are you happy with the positioning of everything? Is there anything you want to change? Because especially just now, if stuff's in different positions, you can move it, and because we've gone over the edges, so if you wanted more sky, you could even build up more sky on top. If you wanted less sky, so you've got that freedom at the moment to play around and find your perfect bit. So just now I do like it with quite a lot of that bottom bit in it, because I'm going to put lots of texture in there. But I think I'm fairly happy. I might push this hill up a little bit, but I think I'm fairly happy. So let's go and put in some more texture. So like I said, I think I'm going to pop this hill up just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to essentially smoosh it with my fingers. And the waterline. But if you want a bigger hill, then keep it the size it is. I just want a tad more water. There we go. Perfect. And it can just be these tiny adjustments that make all the difference. So I'm going to work a little bit more on getting some texture in the water now, and then I'm going to work up into the hill. So I'm going to grab the darker of the blues, and again taking tiny amounts, laying that so it's going on top of the lighter bits, just to fade it in. You would be utterly amazed. Well, those of you that have done this before are not utterly amazed. You know what's going to happen. The difference just tiny layers of colour on top make to your picture. Just give it that amazing sense. This is why I love working with felt, because it's just so much fun to play with, and it can create such wonderful effects. And this should look quite fluffy just now, because we haven't felted it in very well. It will, the more you felt it, the more you stab it, the more you get your anger out, the denser it'll be and the more hard wearing it'll be. I'm going to just go over this blue a little bit. Felting that in, I need some more light down the bottom, and I want to put in little wave caps just at the shore, because it can get quite I know from experience it can get quite wavy down there. So to do that, I'm grabbing the white, just the tiniest bit. I might even lessen that so you can see, if you can even see, a tiny amount. And I'm just going to fold that and place it horizontally, just away from the shore, just there. I'm going to do another one down there, just to give it that tiny. If you're anything like me, your pile of fibre at the side is always a mess. Tiny waves just lapping the shore. I might shape, I'm going to put a little divot in there, I think. Give it some texture. So a couple more waves lapping. And they can just be the tiniest hints of waves. That's something that I did just there, which is really useful. So it was lying quite straight, and I didn't pull it all the way off, but I pulled a little bit up and then pushed it down and then felted the down bit in, and that just makes lovely little shapes from the tiniest bit. So that's a really useful technique. I also need to put some shading on the inside of there. That is for later. There we go. So I'm fairly happy with this water and the way it's sitting. Let's look in the camera. Yeah, that looks fairly good. I think I might put a little bit more of that beautiful sea gem blue along the edge there. Excellent. Right, I'm fairly happy with the water how it stands. Time to work on this little hilly again. So what are we missing? So we're missing a couple of bits. So we need to have some, I like to have a little bit of dark in this bottom, and we're going to put in the yellow highlights and the yellow gorse. I'm taking the darkest of the browns, and again we're working on tiny bits just now, and I'm going to scrumple it just along, so it's above the white line of the beach and just along the bottom, and that just gives that bottom of the hill some shadows and some depth. And we're going to work our way up and put some highlights in. I think I want to put a little bit more of the mid green higher up in the hill. I want a little bit more green than brown just now, even though we are still getting snow. I think it's this edge bit. This needs to, that's better. Needs to shift. There we go. Oh, I'm happier with that. There we go. And I'm going to bring this green right up to the edge of the hill. So I haven't got that line going down. There we go. Because it is surprisingly steep at this edge. I'm going to pop in a little bit of tiny, I keep saying tiny, I will repeat myself multiple times, of dark, just again by pulling out a wee bit and opening it up across the whole thing. I'm going to pop in a little bit more green down the bottom. Yeah, I think we need more green. There we go. those little specks, and it's nice that you can see the lighter green behind it. You don't want to block it off completely, you want just little bits popping through, giving the effect of little hillocks, or maybe these little brown bits are houses in the distance, because there was a few little scattered houses across there. And now we're going to be brave. I know it sounds silly, but we're going to take the bright yellow and we're going to put the top highlights in the bright yellow. But again, I'm saying this multiple times tonight. Tiny, so tiny amounts spread out just along that top little bit there, and then work it in, and that just gives light, like tickling the top of the hill, shall we say. And again on that back hill as well, just a little tickle at the top. There we go. Now what else does that hill need? I think it might need a little bit more of that mid-brown. Oh, my light is may fall. A little bit more of the mid-brown in the centre. There we go. Now don't make this hill perfect. Let it have lumps and bumps, because hills have lumps and bumps. I'm popping in a tiny bit more of the dark on the far away hill to pull it back a little bit. Because we really want this front one to stand up, because there is a valley you can drive up. That's a valley there, or a glen even, shall we say. A glen that you can drive through. I think you can drive through it. I might have driven through it. Gonna pop a little bit, well, felt a little bit more on the sky just to bring that down for a second, because the rest of it's starting to feel mildly felted. I want the same in the sky. And I'm not expecting you guys to get these completely finished tonight. It's a really good idea to get to a stage where you're happy with it and then stop for the evening. Come back in a day or 2 days and just finish those little bits that you haven't. So I never frame it on the first night. I always wait for a day or two. I'm liking, I'm not sure if I'm liking that bit. I'm fairly happy with how the hills are. Oh, we need to do the gorse down the bottom. So the fun thing I'm doing with the gorse is I'm taking my tiny bit and I'm completely scrumpling it up into a little, if you had a jumper you would say it was a pill, and then I might even half that. There we go. And plonking that. There we go. So that gives it a little bit of texture. I'm putting in a couple of them just along the bottom. Because these little details just give it such a sense of depth. There we go. I think I want to pull this at more of an angle, but I'll deal with that once I've worked on this bottom bit, because we've utterly neglected the bottom bit. It's just a blob of green just now. I mean, it's a lovely blob of green, but I feel like it needs some more attention. So I'm going to put in I'm going to give it an edge, possibly with the dark brown. Yeah, so I'm taking the darkest of the browns and just mirroring like we did at the top on the inside of the white line, so it's not covering the white line. We're just going to give it... Nope, we're not. It's lies. I'm going to do it with the mid-brown. So the chocolate brown is going to go just around the inside. I want to, so at the moment I'm getting some grass in my sea. I want to get that on the other side of the white line. Because although, actually, in some places the grass does go right into the sea and it's lovely. So now I'm going to take some of the mid-green, I was going to call this brown, the mid-green, and now is scrumfling time again, so we're going to scrumfle it into balls and lay it on top of bits. Doesn't have to go all over. This is quite a messy bit, which as messy as you can get. Messy bit, so you're just giving it uneven texture, like the shoreline, like there's plants and there's things there. You might even go for some of the light. Again, we're just putting in tiny bits, and if you don't like them, if you don't like the way it's gone, take it off. What else does it need? I like this. I think I want some more of the green actually on top of it. So although sometimes it feels like you're just adding the same colour that you just covered up underneath, ooh, that was my first stab of the evening. It's not. You can still see the colour that you've added underneath it, and it's building up. So I'm going to pop in some splodges of yellow. So we've got gorse, or the little flowers that you might see along the beach. I think I need another wave. I love this wave. I think it needs a second one. So I'm being bold with the yellow, popping it in. So how are you guys all doing? You're being very quiet tonight. Or is this a slightly more difficult one than last month and you're concentrating hard? Again, I like to put stuff in 3s or 5s. I tend not to go for 2s. I think in nature you tend not to have even numbers. I could be completely lying. There we go. That's got some in the foreshore. I like that. I'm gonna felt over that. Concentrating. Yeah, yep. So I'm gonna go over this quite well. I love this. Once it's all in place and you have a good, oh look at that. Once it's all in place and you have a good stab all over it for quite a good while, I love the way the colours all just merge together and it all just comes together. So I said I was going to put a second wave in there, didn't I? I'm going to pop one just in, make a more defined one there. That's it. I think I need some more white. I feel like it's possibly not enough white there. Because although the most of the beach of Loch Linnhe that I swim in is quite pebbly, in my mind it's a wonderful sandy beach. So that's the way I'm going to do it. There we go, that's better. I'm going to give it a good wee once over. See, I think I want to stretch that hill out a little bit. It's very good for the arm muscles, this. Oh, I'm going off screen again. And do I want to put anything else in this hill? There we go. Let's see, let's pull it up and have a quick look. Is my shoreline straight? Probably not. Oh well, shorelines aren't straight, it's fine. Hello, or hi, who's at it? Meall. It is, thank you. Doesn't quite feel like summer here due to our, it's just, there's snow, there's hail, although right now it's not too bad outside, and I am planning on jumping in probably around about here in about an hour after this tonight. I'm going for a quick swim. Yeah, I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So I'm taking the initial colour that I did the base, and I can either pull it up and over. I love that I can do that. Just pull it up and over, stab it down, and maybe add a little. There we go. Have we still got enough definition there? Possibly a little bit more. There we go. I want to pull that green. Yeah, we're all good across here. Or yeah, all is good. Cool, right. I think this might be time to check it in the frame time again. Now I know I haven't put the swimmers in yet, but I will do that right at the end. So let's have a quick look in the frame. So I'm going to line up this so it's vaguely horizontal. Pop that there, and then just press down. Let's go. Have a quick look at this. Yeah, fair. I mean, when I go to put it in properly, I'll make sure it's all centered and organized, but just now, yeah, I'm quite happy with the framing. I think that could be pulled down a, nah, I like it. Yeah! So this is looking out from Fort William, or just a little bit down, like a mile or two down the road from Fort William, across the water. So this is Loch Linney, and this is Meall and t-Slamain, which is the hill across the water from Fort William. It's on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula, and it's just about 400 metres. And we've got the loch, I mean, I'm definitely going to come back tomorrow and play about with this and wiggle a few things. But just now I think I'm going to pop the swimmers in, and then I'm fairly happy with this. It definitely needs a good sort of 10 minutes of felt, stabbing all over to make it nice and secure. And you can see actually the difference here. So this is the test one. So hopefully you can see that it's still slightly fluffier, whereas this is more felted? That's the wrong word. There's a proper word for it. You can see it's smoother and more felted. This is still quite fluffy and poofy just now, which is fine. Okay, what am I putting? I'm putting in the swimmers, and I do not have orange at my table. Hold on 1 second. Amuse yourself. Now we have orange. Or yellow, or blue. The boys come in all shapes and sizes and colours. Or white. A lot of the boys are white. But I'm going to do these ones with orange. So again, it's taking just the tiniest amount and rolling it up into a little pill. I like to leave one end a little bit loose, because that kind of, I stab in with that end. But you want to make these quite tiny, so you can see titchy that might even be too big, and then just pop them in the water. Now I did try and do like faces and arms and things. I just was like, nope, this is not working. So I just went with the boys. It was very difficult to get the correct face. But yeah, Jennifer, somewhere out there, I think it might be called Madness. It is amazing, it's refreshing, it's cold, but it is so nice to be able to just walk out in a swimsuit and go for a swim. But yeah, it's definitely cold. This one's too big. I have not yet broken ice when I'm swimming, but that is one of my goals. So again, rule of 3, gonna put 3 of these in. I think I might have them offset in this one, not in the center. So I think I'm gonna pull the back of that hill, give it a bit more shape so it's not just a lump. There we go. So handy if you want to move stuff. You can felt at an angle, just make sure you're going straight in and out. So like I want to move the top of this hill down a smooch, but without pulling it off. So I'm just going to felt it down at an angle like that. And then you can cover up any bald spots that you've made with the same colour. And put a little bit of blue in there. So that's us almost at the hour, and I'm pretty happy with what we've done in an hour. I would love, as always, because you guys are amazing at it, to see in the Facebook group your pictures. They are always stunning, and I'm always so impressed by what you guys do. So yeah, pop your pictures in the Facebook group. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, give me a like, go on my Facebook, my Instagram, website where you can buy these kits and more. Gonna give a little shout out to Tanya of TJ Frog, who does amazing Dorset buttons and is watching in tonight. You should go and check out her website as well, because her buttons and her wool is absolutely beautiful. Not sponsored. That's TJ Frog. on all of the social medias. But yeah, right, let's get this in a frame and take the final pretty shot of what it's supposed to be. But yeah, I am going to, so it's just slightly felted, mostly felted, but still needs a good 10-15 minutes going over for it to be finished. And we're going to come back tomorrow morning and twiddle with any of the bits that I think need twiddling. So adding in little bits of depth and colour in the hills. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I love the depth of this channel. In fact, I want to put a tiny bit more. Just nobody saw. Tiny bit more in there to give it a little bit more. I have also realised I've now started rambling, so it's definitely where I should call it a night for tonight. But yeah, let's put this in a frame and be impressed with how well we have all done tonight. So I want to make sure I get my swimmers in. In there we go. Attempt to line it up straight. Is that straight? A little bit more to the left. So once you're happy with yours, so not tonight, but when you're happy with it and you've fiddled about with it a bit more, and it's in its frame, so tighten this up really well, and then chop off all the excess around the outside, just close up to the frame, and it'll sit really nicely on your wall. So let's do the final parting shot with all the pretty felt coming in at the side. So hopefully you guys have got as much felt, as much wool left over as I do, because you can make more of these. You can play around. All you need is a bit of backing felt. Thank you, Dania. A bit of backing felt, but you can also felt onto jumpers, onto other materials as well. Although the backing felt is available on my website. Let's make it pretty. There we go. What do you think? Yeah, I'm pretty chuffed. I hope you guys are too. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful month. Carry on felting. You are my squishy army. I'm going to go off for a swim in the law. I'll see you on